Ladies and gentlemen, it seems to me that the issue that we have before us is that we have two interlinked problems. The travel and tourism industry is threatened by climate change and contributes to it, and it is also threatened by the demonization and politicization of the sector led by Jeff Gazzard and others, which has already led to unhelpful government taxes in the UK and looks as if it is to be followed by the Netherlands and no doubt by others. So given that threat, and those two threats together probably represent the biggest combined assault on tourism development that we have ever encountered in the industry, how are we going to achieve our objectives? And I think that our objectives need to be framed something like this. First of all, our objectives to preserve and enhance the sustainable development process. And second, to play our part in reducing greenhouse gas emissions progressively to achieve the goals for stabilization of GHGs. And thirdly, to protect tourism interests and livelihoods. Our long-term vision has to be more ambitious than already outlined, and Philippe Rochard began to do that relating to aviation. I would suggest that air, ground and marine transport, as well as accommodation, should be GHG emission-free by 2050. In the past 50 years, innovation has not been linear but exponential. There is no reason to believe the process is slowing down. Quite the contrary. The commercial, environmental and political prizes are so large that it is improbable that we will not find sustainable ways to adapt. Most of these inventions, note, will not be sector-specific, i.e. directly linked to tourism, but tourism will enjoy the benefits of causing fewer CO2 and other emissions. We need a worldwide process of peer review to share knowledge. This has been mentioned before, and I have an example. We could have a series of workshops of hotels worldwide on how to conserve energy and look for renewable sources. Saving energy makes good business sense. These workshops should be looking at the whole supply chain to and from and within the hotels to activities. I want to finish where I began on tax. Mr. Brown, the Minister of Finance, and who has, in a sense, inherited the post of Prime Minister in the UK, doubled our passenger duty recently. This is described as an environmental tax by Mr. Brown. And to give an indication of the quantum, it varies, but for non-EU destinations, it's up to €120 for business class passengers. What has been the response of some of the non-EU destinations needing to fill their huge investments in hotels? First, to be competitive, the hoteliers drop their prices, and then the governments offer incentives, effectively reductions in taxes to fly to certain airports. The unintended consequence of Mr. Brown's tax is to raise income for the Treasury in the UK and to reduce income in some developing countries. Now, despite this dismal, depressing story of an assault on tourism development, I remain hugely optimistic that we will mitigate GHG emissions and adapt to the consequences of climate change and do it well, even if there are some unhelpful hiccups on the way.